Cruel Intentions, Heathers, Mean Girls. Our movie today inspired by these and many more, most notably perhaps a famous Hitchcock film. Let's talk about Netflix's Do Revenge. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new Netflix film, Do Revenge. This is in the Netflix top 10 right now, doing very well there. And like I mentioned up top, it borrows heavily and or is inspired by a lot of the great teen comedies of the 90s. You could throw 10 Things I Hate About You in there. Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion shows up, I think, a little bit. But most notably, however, and I've not seen this movie, but apparently it is inspired specifically by Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, at least in terms of maybe some plot schematics. Again, I haven't seen that movie, but that's apparently one of the big inspirations for this movie. But in tone, it is very, very steeped in that sort of 90s era movie style. Cruel Intentions is, one of the keys, I think, there, both in plot and in some other aspects that maybe we won't get into for spoilers. But anyway, before we get in any further to this movie, Do Revenge, I want to invite you to subscribe to Dan Reviews It if you're not one of my subscribers already. Thank you for finding this video, whether you are a subscriber or otherwise. And like and comment, too. That all helps the channel out, and we love to see it here. All right, so let's talk about this film a bit. Camila Mendes from Riverdale, she's been playing Veronica for years and years, is at the peak of her high school, A-list status. She is just the hottest thing going on campus. However, a sex tape gets leaked of her and her boyfriend at the very beginning of the movie, but she feels that he did it, so she breaks up with him and through some other circumstances meets one of the new girls in school named Eleanor, played by Maya Hawke, who, if you don't know, first of all, she's on Stranger Things, but she is the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, so obviously some good acting, hopefully, in her DNA. But anyway, the two of them bond and decide to exact revenge on people that they feel have wronged them. And so in the process, the two of them form an unlikely friendship. All right. And yeah, I mean, the 90s vibes for this one are super, super strong. It's funny because there's definitely a big vibe difference between 80s era high school movies, because you have sort of that John Hughes style, or if you want to get like more into the like sex comedy stuff, you got Revenge of the Nerds and Porky's and Animal House and all that sort of stuff. But the 90s had a very, very specific vibe as well that led into some of the early 2000s movies like Mean Girls. And really Heathers, I think, was 89. So that was like just at the sort of cusp of the 90s. But this movie has that tone, and it works really well for it. In fact, a lot of the soundtrack choices have been inspired by that era, right down to using Praise You by Fatboy Slim, which was in Cruel Intentions. So you've got that going for it. But, some of the other 90s soundtrack stuff, Third Eye Blind and Harvey Danger and stuff. But it doesn't take place in the 90s. It takes place in the present, because you've also got Billie Eilish on the soundtrack. You've got Olivia Rodrigo. And, of course, the whole sex tape thing over a, recorded thing on a phone. So obviously that is present day too. So even though the vibe of this is very, very 90s, and you can tell a lot of the influences here, it does take place in the present day. And it was directed by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson, who I'm honestly unfamiliar with, and she co-wrote the film as well. But I believe she is one of the producers on the Thor. Oh, I'm sorry. She co-wrote the Thor movie, Love and Thunder, which I didn't really care for. But she also wrote this movie called Unpregnant, which was on, I want to say, HBO Max, maybe, last year, that I rather enjoyed. So, she's got some things going on. Obviously, Thor, Love and Thunder was mostly written by Taika Waititi, but I guess maybe she helped punch up the script or something. But yeah, she's a part of that. But she clearly was influenced in both the directing and the co-writing with a lot of those old classic movies. But the interesting thing here is I think this movie does have a lot of different things to say than just sort of retelling those plots or, giving us stock characters. Both of these characters, I think, yeah, we can see shades of maybe some other people in there. Maybe there's a Regina George, from Mean Girls or something. But they are definitely their own characters. The humor here, right on point, spot on. My biggest complaint with the movie, I guess, is the runtime. It's close to 2 hours, and I think they could have easily trimmed off 5-6 minutes of this movie. And a couple of the quote-unquote twists, or I guess maybe not necessarily twists, but a couple of places that the plot goes, you can sort of see coming from a mile away if you've ever seen, one of these sort of, buddy female empowerment 90s movies, right? So maybe not wholly original, but the two leads have excellent chemistry together. I don't watch much Stranger Things. I saw season 1 way back when, and I'm not even sure if Maya Hawke's character was even in it at the time. I can't even remember. So I'm not super familiar with her. And Camila Mendes, I watched the first couple seasons of Riverdale, and I feel like I've seen her in something else not too long ago either. But, look, obviously these gals are like in their mid-20s. If you can sort of get past that thing of, well, these kids are clearly not kids, they're far removed from high school. That kind of thing doesn't typically bother me, and it did not bother me here. I guess because what these people are most known for is playing high schoolers, between Riverdale and Stranger Things. So that didn't affect me at all. But their chemistry on screen is great together. There's a few other names you may recognize in the high school students casting, and there's definitely one big name that I think they want you to think is a big reveal, because when they first turn around in the first scene they're in, they sort of pause for a second. The camera really wants you to be shocked by this person in the movie. So I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I will say it's somebody involved with one of the movies that we talked about earlier, one of the 90s staples. So that's all I'll really say about that, because I think they want you to feel like it's a big secret or something, the way the camera pans. But the chemistry here between the two leads, I think, really sells this story. And it makes me actually want to check out Strangers on a Train now to see what the comparisons are. But apparently it was inspired heavily by that film, so who knows. But I really enjoyed Do Revenge. Netflix has been kind of on a cold streak lately. A lot of their recent movies, especially sort of in that comedy vein, like The Munsters and End of the Road and Me Time, that have all come out in the last month, and I think the highest grade I gave any of them was a D+. They're sort of on a very cold streak. This is a bright spot for sure in Netflix's comedy slate for this year. So I give Do Revenge on Netflix an A-. All right, that will do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.